And a very happy Monday to you at 12:06 in the West. And I meant to add letter carriers to today's list of thank yous. So thank you to all the letter carriers who make sure that, well, I was going to say we keep Bed Bath & Beyond in business, but they went under. But you keep those Christmas cards coming. And, of course, the very precious and valuable Amazon packages. Mr. Randy Wang is back from vacation.
John, L.A. Mayor Karen Bass made her pitch to Alex Michelson why she advocates for comprehensive immigration reform. And what did we find out? That Karen Bass is quite the D-dropper.
But, there's a lot of reasons that people come in. There's the whole situation of parents who bring in a child, and the child, came here innocently. Why should that child be deported? But
what happened to the D's?
There are missing D's every time Karen Bass speaks.
Of parents who bring in a child.
It's easier to find the Lindbergh baby than it is to find a D in a word that she's pronouncing.
And the child, came here innocently. Why should that child be deported?
How about the child? A child?
Child.
That sounds like something you'd order as a side dish at a Southern restaurant.
She's so anti-deportation, she drops the D from everything.
Of parents who bring in a child.
What are you going to do? 800-222-5222 is the telephone number. 1-800-222-5222. Well, Randy, you were gone. There wasn't a whole lot of breaking news, but at some point over the weekend, we have new Sheng news.
Shangy, did you have a good Thanksgiving?
Absolutely.
So much to be thankful for in that household.
You think she and Andre are still together?
Were they ever really?
That's true. Could be one of those situations where it's like that MTV show. Help, turns out I'm in a secret relationship, and I thought that I was actually in a real relationship.
Well, I don't even think it was a secret relationship he had on the side. He brought the side piece as his official date to her inauguration.
That's true. A complaint has been filed when it comes to the Fair Political Practices Commission in the case of California Attorney General Rob Bonta and his nearly $500,000 legal payment to a criminal defense firm to represent him while he was being investigated by the FBI.
You're not supposed to do that, but apparently rules don't apply to Mr. Bonta.
For more, here is a report from KCRA3 and, of course, Ashley Zavala.
Well, today, California's Fair Political Practices Commission confirmed that it did get a formal complaint against Attorney General Rob Bonta.
Yeah, the complaint comes after he used nearly $500,000 in campaign donations to pay for his own attorneys amid a federal bribery investigation.
Why wouldn't that money come from his own salary?
You would think that if you're going to hire a criminal defense firm to represent you in a case that the FBI is looking into, that would be the appropriate way to pay the bill.
KCRA3 Political Director Ashley Zavala was first to report this, joins us now with an update and how the Attorney General is responding, Ashley.
Lisa, the Fair Political Practices Commission regulates campaign finance activity in the state. Within the next couple of weeks, they'll decide what action, if any, it will take in response to this complaint against Attorney General Rob Bonta. Documents provided to us by the FPPC show someone named Raphael Ruthchild filed the complaint. They pointed to our reporting from last week and noted how Bonta's 2026 re-election campaign account paid $468,000 total to Wilson Sonsini law firm.
And I don't know if you watched them, maybe we'll play the interview later where Bonta gets grilled by Zavala about that payment, about that law firm, and he talks about what hard work they had to do and how much paperwork they had to go through. Like, how dirty are you, dude?
Well, and here's something that's also interesting. We live in such a one-party state that bank account was for a campaign 2026 where he feels comfortable spending $500,000 on a criminal defense firm as opposed to saving the money to make sure he has the resources to win re-election. He believes that re-election is such a foregone conclusion that he can use the money for these purposes and he won't have to buy time on television and radio and mail.
Well, he's an incumbent. And who's going to run again? Eric Early?
Rothschild claims the campaign improperly used those funds. Bonta said he used the money to hire attorneys in 2024 because he was a witness in the federal bribery investigation that resulted in the indictment of some of his donors, known as the Duong family, and ex-mayor of Oakland, Sheng Thao.
Sheng, you got a shout out.
We can't ever let her go away into the night.
That's right. I like that. That was amazing.
In the complaint, he wrote, in part, based on what the Bonta campaign stated in writing and on the record, the purpose of some or all of these legal expenses was for another purpose and not for his committee. That was Raphael Rothschild in his complaint. On California Politics 360, I pressed the AG about the use of the funds over the weekend, which he and his campaign kept quiet about for months until last week.
Yes, if there's nothing to see here, why wouldn't they have come out about this information that, because at one point Rob Bonta was saying, I may have been a victim in this case.
Well, here's what happens. When you're in a one-party state and you feel like you're never going to lose re-election, you eventually get sloppy because you only cover over your tracks if you feel like it could result in you losing power. If you feel like you're entitled to the power and it's never going to be taken away from you, why should you even bother trying to cover over your tracks?
The legal fees were for representation that was for me, my capacity as a candidate who has campaigns and receives campaign funding and receives campaign donations.
And aren't those supposed to be for ad time and rallies and organizing, not for hiring lawyers to cover your ass?
Because then it just becomes a slush fund for whatever purposes he wants to spend it on.
When there was a federal government inquiry about as part of an investigation into others, and it seemed they thought I might have information that was potentially relevant to their investigation, and so I wanted to make sure I responded to all of their questions and gave them all the information that they needed to assist.
If you're just giving the FBI documents they're asking for, why do you need a high-priced criminal defense firm?
Well, and then listen to this. This is according to Susan Shelley. She tweeted this out over the weekend. Why did California Attorney General Rob Bonta ask a nonprofit in Houston to send $500,000 to a law firm in San Francisco to assist in investigations subject to the direction and control of office attorneys, a month before the FBI raided Sheng Thao's and the Duongs?
Oh, my.
Responded to all of their questions and gave them all the information that they needed to assist as quickly as possible, to be as helpful as possible in their efforts. Maybe some of the things that I could provide would be an important puzzle piece in their investigation of others. So
I volunteered all of this information, and I volunteered my own campaign money to help with that federal investigation, even though I am in charge of a law enforcement agency in the state of California,
where in theory he has unlimited funds to investigate criminal acts.
Why would his private funds need to be used for this if this was crimes that were committed in the state of California? Don't you have JAGs that could have assisted the FBI with this investigation?
Well, just think about it in a different context. Let's say the O.J. Simpson situation happened today. Do you think Nathan Hochman would have to go into his campaign account to provide funds to investigate the murder of Ron and Nicole?
What's going on, America?
Is it hot down there?
I hired attorneys to assist with gathering of the documents and production of all of the documents that the federal government requested, and they were also there as my attorneys when I went in and spoke to members of the federal government and answered all the questions that they had.
I hope they have more questions, because this isn't the only shady thing going on with Rob Bonta's campaign cash. Just, if you're listening, FBI, look at all the donations he's got from tribal casinos over the years and notice the things that he's been doing to the card houses that nobody asked him to do.
I'll tell you what kind of sociopath this guy is. He spent $500,000 of campaign money on a criminal defense a firm, white-collar criminal defense firm. And he's trying to spin this as making him the protagonist in the story, that he is the good guy who is so committed to rooting out criminal wrongdoing in California that he's willing to spend his own campaign dollars to do it. Do you realize how screwed up in the head you have to be to try to think that the public will buy that?
Dan Newman, Bonta's re-election campaign advisor, told me today the complaint is, quote, a silly political stunt completely without merit.
Okay, so who is, let me get his name right, Raphael Rothschild, the person who filed this thing?
Yeah, that is a great question considering Bonta's campaign.
He might have just been a guy who was watching Channel 3.
Yeah, because it's obvious to everyone what's going on here. This isn't exactly an episode of Matlock where you can't figure out who did it.
Who filed this thing?
Yeah, that is a great question considering Bonta's campaign was expecting it to come from a consultant from, someone who's running for governor right now or an opposing campaign. I've been calling around to see if Raphael Rothschild is connected to any state officials, politicians, or consultants, whether that's Republican or Democrat. Nothing yet.
So that's the latest on the complaint. Now, Johnny, do you want to actually hear this train wreck of an interview between Ashley Zavala and Rob Bonta?
Oh, how can we not listen to that?
All right, buckle up, kids.
Joining us now is California Attorney General Rob Bonta. Mr. Bonta, welcome back to California Politics 360.
Hi, Ashley. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So, Mr. Attorney General, the $468,000 total that you paid to Wilson Sonsini Law Firm, what exactly was that for, in your words?
Sure. And first, let me just say I'd rather be talking about all of the important work we're doing fighting Trump and...
Oh, God.
This is all they care about. And keep in mind, particularly you Democrats in the audience, he is being asked about something that is clearly unethical, maybe beyond that. And the first thing that he does to make sure that you stay with your tribe on this one is to turn it into an issue about Trump. Donald Trump has nothing to do with the Dong family, nothing to do with Sheng Thao, nothing to do with Rob and Mia Bonta and their relationship to all of the illegal activities going on in Oakland. Yet he's trying to make this about him fighting Trump so the Democrats put the blinders on and they don't see what's right in front of their face.
Hey, one of the dongs was at the Trump inauguration.
There's dongs everywhere, I guess.
David Dong.
all of his lawlessness and protecting Californians. But I am very happy to be here with you to talk to you about this and to be open and transparent about it. The legal fees were for representation. That was for me, my capacity as a candidate who has campaigns and receives campaign funding and receives campaign donations.
This is what we call in the business a run out the clock answer.
Because that usually works if you're the party in power and it's a one-party state.
When there was a federal government inquiry about as part of an investigation into others, and it seemed they thought I might have information that was potentially relevant to their investigation, and so I wanted to make sure I responded to all of their questions. And
so here's another thing that he's trying to do. He's trying to make it seem like the information that he had that was relevant to the investigation was in his capacity as Attorney General, as if he was investigating the Dongs and Sheng Thao as AG. Not that he was involved with this entire crowd back when he was a politician in Oakland and then after he was elevated to Attorney General. He's trying to make sure that you jump to the wrong conclusion.
Responded to all of their questions and gave them all the information that they needed to assist as quickly as possible, to be as helpful as possible in their efforts. Maybe some of the things that I could provide would be an important puzzle piece in their investigation of others. So I hired attorneys to assist with gathering of the documents.
Did you find them on a billboard on the freeway?
And production of all the documents that the federal government requested. And they were also there as my attorneys when I went in and spoke to.
He had the dream team at the depot.
There's only one reason to do that.
How many people did he have to pay by the hour to whisper in his ear, don't answer that?
Well, at an absolute minimum, $500,000.
Members of the federal government and answered all the questions that they had. So again, it was in an effort to help and assist with their investigation of others. And hopefully I gave them a puzzle piece or two that assisted them.
How generous.
Do you realize what stakes they must have been dealing with to be willing to spend $500,000 on legal fees simply to be represented when you testified as a witness to the federal government?
No, this isn't passing the smell test for anybody.
No witness has to spend that amount of money on representation unless there's something else going on. 800-222-5222 is the telephone number. 1-800-222-5222. If you'd like to email the show, you can do so at johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. That's johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. And Randy, if you missed an episode from last week when you were gone and we spent a lot of time talking about the incident that took place inside the women's locker room at the Gold's Gym on La Cienega, that's easy to do.
All you got to do is search for The John Phillips Show wherever you get your podcasts. That could be the Apple Podcasts app. It could be iHeart, Spotify. Search for The John Phillips Show. Hit subscribe. You could download all the episodes. You could do a Google on the YouTube.
Do a Google on YouTube.
A lot of people do their podcasts on YouTube now, so search for The John Phillips Show there. You can get the free KABC app for all you Southern California people. You can get the free KSFO app for all you Northern California people. You can even get the free KMJ Now app because we're on that station Saturdays at 2. There are so many different ways to listen live to these radio stations and download all of the podcasts.
Right. 800-222-5222 is the telephone number. 1-800-222-5222. Right now, we're going through the sound of California Attorney General Rob Bonta and a sit-down with KCRA's Ashley Zavala.
So just to be clear, were you a witness? Were you a victim? Were you a possible subject, a target? What exactly were you in this case, if you can say?
What is your connection to the dongs?
Good question.
I was 1,000% not a target.
Sheng said the same thing.
Yes, she did, and she's continuing to say the same thing.
I was a potential victim in their eyes. They thought I may be a victim. And
wait, a victim of what?
Yeah, that should be easy to explain. If you're a victim, then you can say, look, here's the deal. I had a bank account. The federal government believed they were stealing money out of the bank account, and I was a victim. It's easy to explain. It's easy to understand.
I mean, what's the victimhood here? Did Hermelindo Ramos try to bump him off too?
Good question.
And I certainly, in the lay understanding, a witness who provided information that may be helpful to their investigation of other people. So I was someone that they thought might have information that could assist with their investigation of other people.
And that's when I decided to spend $500,000 on a law firm.
Without being able to explain how I'm a potential victim.
I was 1,000% not a target.
Okay, now I just have to point something out. When it comes to percentages, if you say 100%, okay, I can understand that. But as a longtime viewer of the old Maury Povich show, anytime the mother of the child said that they were over 100% sure that he was the father, they were 1,000% sure he was the father. Johnny, was he ever the father?
Nope, because the mother's the town bike and everyone had a ride.
I missed that show.
I was 1,000% not a target.
Okay, you told the LA Times that you were a victim at one point. Was that also the case?
Yeah, they thought I was potentially a victim. That was one of the first reasons that the federal government reached out to me, a victim of potential extortion or blackmail.
Okay, so what did the dongs have on you?
Yeah, what were they trying to extract? Keep in mind, according to the letter that was provided to the federal government by the informant, the dongs had a videotape of Rob Bonta engaged in a, quote, compromising situation. Why do you think they would keep in possession of a video like that?
And so with that, you mentioned that you answered questions, you provided documents, but I mean, you spent nearly $500,000 of those campaign funds. Campaign finance records show that is a historic amount of money to spend. I mean, all that really cost that much?
Yes. The attorneys that I had were working around the clock. To be responsive, to be efficient, to be comprehensive, to be...
None of this is passing the smell test.
Do you realize how profitable it would be if the victim or potential victims and witnesses in investigations had to spend $500,000 on attorneys just to make sure that they properly conveyed the information that the federal government was looking for? This is essentially a whole new industry for attorneys, if true. But nobody spends $500,000 on a law firm if you're just the witness to a crime. That doesn't happen.
To be completely forthcoming in all of our information that we were providing in an effort to assist and help the federal government. I will say I may have had an audible gasp when I saw the final legal bill.
He's thinking, oh my God, it was worth every cent if they kept me out of prison.
Worth every cent of not my money.
But these are attorneys that charge at not insignificant rates, and they were working many hours to make sure that we were providing all the information, all the documents, everything that the federal government sought. And
again, this doesn't look good if you needed an entire team of attorneys to go through all of your phone and computer records for years and years and years and years.
What types of documents would a potential witness, not even a witness, but a potential witness, have to fork over to justify a law firm spending that much time on the case?
In our effort to be helpful and to assist them.
How much did they charge? And I mean, when did, I guess maybe what could be helpful in understanding this amount of money is, when did they start this work for you?
It all happened pretty quickly in sort of the late summer and early fall.
Maybe what the attorneys were hired to do was clean up the Bonta's bizarre history with nonprofits, where Rob Bonta would start soliciting donations for a nonprofit, and then Mia Bonta would become the head of that nonprofit.
And I would love to know if this started before Sheng Thao had her home raided.
It all happened pretty quickly in sort of the late summer and early fall of 2024. So it was all.
And Shangy got raided in June of 2024. I know because I was on vacation.
That's true.
2024. So it was all compressed. And the billable rates, you can just look at any private law firms.
I wonder if this law firm, they charge their fees on a sliding scale based on how guilty you appear to be.
Well, you know what was funny? And replay what he just said, because he almost said, look at what white-collar criminal defense law firms charge. And then he stopped himself and he goes, look what law firms charge.
Early fall of 2024, so it was all compressed. And the billable rates, you can just look at any private law firm's website and see that there's rates at $1,000 an hour, $2,000 an hour, $3,000 an hour.
Is that how much you were paying, though?
These are very high rates.
He almost said white-collar criminal defense.
Only the best attorneys.
Mr. Attorney General, is that how much you were paying?
How many of your attorneys at one point represented Michael Jackson?
Boy, they're going to make more money off of him than they are off of Tom Steyer.
Mr. Attorney General, is that how much you were paying? $1,000, $2,000, $3,000?
There were ranges because there were different attorneys, and it's based on experience and your role in the firm, and every attorney charges at a different rate, but they were in the thousands of dollars range, yes.
And did you have a lot of documents to provide? Again, I'm just trying to make sense of this number here.
All right, Johnny, we're at the halfway point. How's he doing?
Not good. Not good, because it's obvious that what he's saying is not true. And she knows too. You can tell by the line of her questions that she knows that everything that's coming out of his mouth is BS.
The worst thing that ever happened to Sacramento politicians was KCRA3 giving Zavala her own half-hour interview show every Sunday.
Oh, no, this is a disaster for them.
Well, in today's age and day and age of technology and information, multiple devices, multiple.
Wait, how many phones do you have?
That's another red flag, because usually the only people that have 432 cell phones are drug dealers.
Computers and laptops. There is a lot of places where information is stored, and every one of us has a very significant data footprint, and so we want.
Speak for yourself, Bonta.
I was part of a lawsuit at one point in time in the past, and I had to go through emails and text messages and call logs and all of that. I did it myself, and I'm about as analog as it gets.
The fact that you can even connect to the radio station via the internet is a miracle every day.
This is true, and I managed to do it.
And so we wanted to make sure we looked through everything, that we extracted data from every device in every place in every space, so that if we had a piece of the puzzle that could assist the federal government in their...
He's doing all of this for altruism. He's doing all of this in the name of justice.
He thinks that he's going to come out of this looking good. He is that delusional.
So that if...
Well, he's made it this far being this delusional.
Well, remember back when Lacey Peterson first went missing? And Scott Peterson was going on Nancy Grace, and he was going on the shows, and he was part of the candlelight vigils and all of those things. He thought in that deranged head of his that he was going to come out of this looking like the hero and the victim.
So that if we had a piece of the puzzle that could assist the federal government in their investigation of other people, then they would have it. And we didn't know, what their investigation entailed in all of its nuances. They knew. Our job was just to provide as much information as we could
to the tune of $500,000.
Yeah. No one is buying this. 800-222-5222 is a telephone number. Right now, we're going through the interview of California Attorney General Rob Bonta with KCRA's Ashley Zavala.
To them so that they could, if anything was helpful, then they could use it in their investigation. But the large amount of data, the challenges of extracting data, getting it in a way that can be presented, reviewing it to make sure no one's private information is improperly disclosed, and making sure that everything is transparent.
I'm sure that's all they were redacting.
He's talking about himself, by the way. He's talking about making sure that nothing that incriminates him is accidentally turned over to the feds.
That's why you hire the high-priced law firm.
Is transparent and forthcoming and handed over. That took time, that took hours, and we wanted to do it quickly in our effort to assist and help the federal government.
Okay, to move on from the dollar amount, you did mention that you could have been possibly a victim of extortion, and I do want to get your reaction to earlier this week, East Bay Insider's newsletter reported that one of the informants in that Oakland federal bribery investigation sent you a letter saying the Dongs had surveillance video of you in a compromising situation. Is that true?
That's the Mario Juarez letter.
Yes, and we still don't know what the Dongs have on him.
That is not true. There is no video, and that is false.
What do you think's in that video?
Boy, I'd like to know.
In the letter, you were also asked to investigate the Dongs in your capacity as the state's top law enforcement official.
I love that she went back to saying Dongs.
Well, that is the proper pronunciation.
Why didn't you, or did you? And what was your reaction to seeing that?
Well, the letter read like a person in a mental health crisis. And as it turns out...
I mean, the guy that said, hey, your biggest donors just put a hit out on me?
Yeah, I'd be having trouble upstairs, too, if I knew that people were trying to kill me.
And as it turns out, it was a desperate person in a desperate moment doing desperate things. You can see it for yourself if you read the letter.
That's a triple D right there.
Well, he includes the D, unlike a certain mayor.
And so it was hard to give the letter much credibility. But what I will never gamble with is somebody saying that they are at risk of harm or that their life is at risk. I could not take a chance with that. And there were other, what if true, would be potential crimes that were set forth in that letter that the individual who wrote the letter was accusing others of doing. So it was important for me to get that letter over to our local law enforcement partners immediately, who were best located to respond to any imminent threat.
Wait, so you called OPD? Did they answer for you?
I think they told them to fill out a form online.
Any imminent harm, to protect life, to protect health, and get involved. So we worked with our law enforcement partners immediately to help address any potential threat of someone being hurt.
Did they stop that shootout between Mario Juarez and Hermelindo Ramos? Oh, no, they didn't.
No, that happened.
So moving forward from this situation, I mean, will your campaign be making any more payments to private attorneys related to this matter?
No, and this all happened 14 months ago.
So why'd you hide it from us?
They haven't even gone to trial yet. So he doesn't know what information they have on him. Why would you say you're not going to spend any more money on attorneys when you don't know what else is out there? That right there is a lie.
My involvement is over, has been over. It's been over for 14 months. I provided all the information that was requested of me. I helped and assisted in any way possible. We spent a lot of time reviewing documents and getting them everything that was asked for, and my involvement's over. So since my involvement's over, there's no reason to pay any attorneys.
But is it?
And just given that the payments this year were made 2 days before you announced you would not run for California governor, you would seek re-election as attorney general. This was all in February. Just confirming this played no role in that decision.
No role.
You know, even though...
Okay.
Go for it.
I'm telling you, I know people involved in Democratic Party politics in California who I talked to right before he made this announcement, who were working with him privately, and he was a go to run for governor. He was all in. He was already talking to people about what positions they would get appointed to if he were to be elected. And then all of a sudden, he changes his mind on a dime and doesn't even tell his own supporters. The people that were working with him to put his campaign together were all taken by surprise when that Politico article came out at 6:30 in the morning as part of the California playbook. How do I know this? Because I was the one that broke the news to them.
Okay. Are you still planning to stay out of the governor's race?
Well, let me first say this. I had endorsed Kamala Harris to run for governor when she was considering it, and she never entered the race. And then I endorsed Alex Padilla before he made a final decision, and he never entered the race. So I can guarantee you that if there's any gubernatorial candidate that has my endorsement and is not yet in the race, they're not getting in the race.
What?
Wait, play that again.
Well, let me first say this. I had endorsed Kamala Harris to run for governor when she was considering it, and she never entered the race. And then I endorsed Alex Padilla before he made a final decision, and he never entered the race. So I can guarantee you that if there's any gubernatorial candidate that has my endorsement and is not yet in the race, they're not getting in the race.
So what he's saying is his endorsement is the kiss of death?
I don't know if I'd be advertising that.
I will say this. I've been very flattered, honored, grateful for the incredible outpouring of encouragement I've received to reconsider running for governor.
Give us one name.
Just FYI, as an aside to nothing, this is why they never let any criminal defendant testify in their own defense, because this is what it sounds like.
And that has meant a lot to me to hear from those folks.
So just to be clear, are you considering running for governor with that?
I have nothing to announce today about this issue.
But didn't he say earlier this year it wasn't even about Kamala? The reason he wasn't going to run for governor is because his important as attorney general, its job is so important, and he's got to fight the federal government so much that it needs 100% of his focus. I guess that's not true anymore now that the field of candidates is as pathetic as it is.
Well, now he thinks he can win, so why not?
Issue.
All right. Mr. Attorney General Rob Bonta, thank you so much for your time.
Thanks for having me. Good to see you, Ashley. Appreciate it.
Sure, he loved doing that interview.
And this is why politicians who are, let's just say, associated with criminal activity, this is why there's so much liability. Because if you're a private businessman and you're doing something that's illegal, it's easy to operate in the shadows because you don't have a press corps that's paying attention to you. And in no uncertain terms would you ever sit down and agree to an interview with a television reporter unless you're stupid or unless you court attention. Sometimes the mobsters do that because they enjoy being celebrities. Sometimes the cartel people do that. They enjoy being celebrities. But for the most part, your average criminal isn't on the radar of the press. The fact that he has to go out and sit down for these interviews is poison for his ability to stay out of trouble. Because the more you talk, the more trouble you get into. And what he said made no sense. And everyone understands that, including the feds.